I've ever seen by a lawyer. It makes Michael Avenatti look like a saint. If a recent civil lawsuit is accurate, Alina Habba convinced a Bedminster waitress who was suing the Trump golf course for sexual harassment to leave her lawyer, then sign one of the worst settlement agreements I've ever seen, which was drafted by Alina Habba, who claimed to be a neutral third party. If she wasn't already working for Trump as a lawyer, she appears to have used this unethical freebie as an audition to become Trump's top, in quotes, lawyer. This is insane. Now, you might remember Alina Habba as the 39-year-old attorney leading Donald Trump's New York civil fraud case and the new powerhouse contender shoving Rudy out of the way for the bad Trump lawyer crown. She received an F-tier ranking from us. In 2021, surprising many people, Habba replaced Trump's longtime lawyer, Mark Kasowitz, on the E. Jean Carroll defamation case, as well as a similar suit brought by a former Apprentice contestant named Summer Zervos. Though surprising no one, the results of that replacement were easy to guess. Now, Kasowitz, the founder of the 350-lawyer firm Kasowitz, Benson & Torres, is a high-powered lawyer with clients like former Fox host Bill O'Reilly and the cigarette company Leggett. And as a plaintiff's attorney, he secured $300 million for Alabama residents poisoned by seepage from a Monsanto plant. In contrast, Alina Habba heads up a 4-lawyer shop in suburban New Jersey, specializing in family law and small-scale business disputes, though she previously served as the general counsel to a parking garage company that was owned by her husband. So the question is, why would Trump choose an attorney like Habba to represent him? If this complaint is true, it looks like it was because she screwed over this waitress for his benefit. So what's going on with this new lawsuit? Well, a complaint was filed last week in the Superior Court of New Jersey describing Habba's role in a 3-year employment dispute at the Trump National Golf Club, Bedminster. Now, as always, this is a civil complaint, so this is a one-sided document that tells the story of the plaintiff as the plaintiff wants it to be told. That being said, this complaint contains a lot of verbatim quotes, which makes it appear like they have the receipts in this particular case. But at the same time, Habba has not responded to this complaint yet. We'll see what happens there. Now, it started in May of 2021 when a 21-year-old woman named Alice Bianco got a job as a server at the New Jersey club where the former president spends much of the spring and summer. Bianco claims that, quote, soon after she began work, Pavel Melikar, the food and beverage manager, began to sexually harass her. Melikar forced Bianco to wear short skirts and came up with excuses to summon her to his office to forcibly kiss her and promise to protect her, asking what she was going to do for him. Bianco says that Melikar had control over plaintiff's workplace and made it clear to her that he could make her life easy or hard. Soon, he was coercing Bianco to, quote, engage in sex as a quid pro quo for continued employment and protection, allegedly claiming that, quote, he could do what he wanted because he runs the place. As proof, he showed Bianco, quote, videos of Donald Trump praising him, indicating his closeness to Donald Trump so that she knew he was powerful. In July, Bianco says that she refused to put up with Melikar's advances anymore, telling him, quote, I don't want you, I never wanted you, get away from me. After this, she says Melikar retaliated by, quote, giving her unfair job assignments and allowing his henchmen to abuse her and steal her tips. Now, if true, this would be a textbook example of sexual harassment under federal and state anti-discrimination laws. The New Jersey Attorney General's Division of Civil Rights defines quid pro quo harassment as, quote, when a benefit like a promotion is conditioned on sexual favors, or when an adverse action like being fired is threatened if you refuse a sexual advance. It also notes that, quote, the New Jersey law against discrimination prohibits an employer from retaliating against you for objecting to sexual harassment, filing a sexual harassment complaint, or for exercising or attempting to exercise any rights under the law. Now, allegedly that same month, another female coworker who claimed to have been harassed by Melikar delivered a letter to, quote, a member of Donald Trump's personal staff, describing a, quote, toxic and sexist work environment as a result of poor managing from higher management. The letter alleged multiple occurrences of sexual harassment and specifically stated that Melikar had, quote, forced a female server to perform sexual actions with him and covered it up by stating that he was protecting her while paying her and giving her gifts to remain silent. The letter writer said she had told the club's general manager, Dave Schutzenhofer, about Melikar's behavior, but, quote, little to no action has been taken. Now, after receiving this letter, the club's human resources officer allegedly finally contacted Bianco, who hired an experienced employment lawyer. But on July 28th, as Bianco was working breakfast shift, she was approached by club member Alina Habba, who said that, quote, she had heard about what was going on and wanted to help her. Habba, quote, acted as if Bianco was her friend and that she was very concerned about her. Bianco was familiar with Habba and her husband, regular patrons of the club who often socialized with the former president. Now, Bianco told Habba that she already had a lawyer, and this is where things really start to go sideways. Because the first rule of attorney ethics is that you do not communicate directly with a party who has legal representation. You talk to their lawyer. This is not one of those things where there's a lot of wiggle room. This is a hard and fast rule. But Habba continued to communicate with Bianco. A lot. Now, according to the complaint, she started by telling the younger woman, you know you can fire your current lawyer, right? She followed it up with a text a few hours later saying, hi, love, it's Alina. Wanted to check on you. She included a link to a negative review of Bianco's lawyer saying, is this the guy? Be careful. On August 1st, Bianco sent Habba a long apologetic message saying that she didn't feel comfortable firing her lawyer, but inviting Habba to consult. Since Trump has multiple lawyers, it isn't a bad idea for me to have multiple attorneys to figure out how best to handle this situation. But Habba did not want to consult. So 4 days later, Bianco climbed into Habba's matte black G-Wagon in the parking lot of the Trump club. Habba allegedly, quote, knew all about Bianco's claims and alluded to facts that could be used to publicly embarrass her, saying, quote, with your past, maybe you can get a paltry sum. Habba went on to tell Bianco, I can help you, I can protect you, and warned her that, quote, attorneys want to take control from you. Foreshadowing, Bianco probably should have taken that last sentence at face value. Now, according to the complaint, Habba advised Bianco to, quote, ignore her lawyer's texts, emails, and calls, and it worked. The next day, Bianco texted to say, quote, I did exactly what you said, nothing, LMFAO, and the lawyer texted me this morning and fired me, question mark, LMFAOO. I don't get it, but whatever. After that, things moved fast. As Bianco texted her new friend, quote, I love you so much, and best friend, I love you, Habba prepared the paperwork. On August 11th, Bianco arrived at Habba's office to sign a non-disclosure agreement she hadn't seen, and which she'd been discouraged from allowing an outside lawyer to review. The terms were not in her favor. The agreement contained a confidentiality clause which barred her from talking about the harassment she'd suffered, or even the existence of the agreement to anyone but her accountant. But the thing is, under New Jersey law, a provision in any employment contract or settlement agreement which conceals the details relating to a claim of discrimination, retaliation, or harassment is against public policy and unenforceable against a current or former employee. In plain English, allowing employers to silence employees about sexual harassment and workplace discrimination is bad for society because it allows employers to simply pay money and continue doing horrible, illegal things. And so in 2019, New Jersey made these confidentiality provisions unenforceable by employers. But at the same time, the law mandates that any confidentiality agreement to settle a claim of workplace discrimination must include a, quote, bold, prominently placed notice telling the employee that if she violates the non-enforceable confidentiality clause, then the employer will have the right to do the same. Now, at this point in the video, you will probably not be shocked to learn that this clause was not in the settlement agreement that Habba prepared. But what was there was a liquidated damages provision requiring Bianco to return the entire settlement amount if she violated the confidentiality provision, plus pay a fine of $1,000 per day of the violation and fork over the club's attorney's fees if they had to sue her to enforce it. Of course, the club couldn't even enforce the confidentiality provision under New Jersey law, but that's not what Habba said to Bianco. And the complaint continues, stating that Habba told Bianco, quote, as long as you don't talk to anybody about this, you'll be fine, and warned her that she, quote, better not try to sell her story to the media because she would owe Trump the settlement proceeds and the media would only pay about $3,000. Now, Alina Habba is probably going to need a good lawyer for these claims, but if you want a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle Team, can help. If you've suffered from sexual harassment, been in a car crash, or suffered from cancer, we can represent you or help find you the right attorney who can. It's so important to talk to a lawyer right away to get the best representation to figure out what your options are. So just click on the link in the description for a free consultation with my team right away. Because you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle Team. The link is down below. So by now you're probably wondering what Bianco got for firing her original lawyer and going with what Alina Habba was advising her to do. Well, in exchange for her silence about the sexual abuse, Bianco was given what is only described in the document as a, quote, paltry sum. Legal columnist Liz Dye points out at lawandchaospod.com that one of Habba's texts suggests that the amount was $15,000. And that would indeed be a paltry sum. Basically, it's missing at least one, if not two zeros on it, for a 21-year-old who was basically raped by her manager to avoid being fired. And to add insult to injury, Bianco says that Habba deceived her about who would pay the taxes on the settlement funds. She says that Habba told her that the money would be tax-free and that the club would pay for the therapy she was getting to deal with the trauma from her abuse. In fact, the agreement explicitly states that Bianco was responsible for paying her own taxes, but since Habba never provided Bianco a copy of the agreement, that came as a surprise when the young woman went to file her taxes and saw that she was on the hook the next year. But by then, Habba was formally representing Trump in multiple civil cases and had all but ghosted her young friend. After the draconian settlement agreement was signed, when Bianco texted to ask about the tax issue, Habba repeatedly fobbed her off on the club saying, quote, I really can't give you legal advice. Or as Bianco put it in her complaint, quote, what Miss Habba really meant by saying I can't technically give you legal advice was that she was now done with plaintiff. Habba didn't need to text heart emojis anymore. She had accomplished her goal of protecting Donald Trump and of silencing Miss Bianco. And yeah, that raises a very interesting and legally important question. Who was Habba representing in this deal? In her complaint, Bianco alleges that, quote, Habba held herself up as a neutral party, mediating between two good friends, but that, quote, she was secretly working to advance the interests of the club and Donald Trump. Note that this is not an allegation that Habba was actually formally working for Trump, just that she was interested in protecting him and not simply looking out for the younger woman in a tough spot. And it's very clear that Habba was trying to protect her own interests in the settlement contract. A section entitled, quote, waiver of right to independent counsel says that, quote, neither party was represented by counsel and that this agreement was prepared by a neutral attorney who, quote, is acting for the sole purpose of drafting the agreement of the parties and that the neutral attorney is released from any and all responsibility or liability in connection with the drafting of the agreement. The document also claims that both parties were, quote, advised to obtain independent legal counsel and that they had both read and understood the contents and legal effect of the agreement, both of which are boilerplate provisions in every contract. But Bianco claims that she never had the opportunity to review the terms of the agreement before signing it and that Habba encouraged her to fire her lawyer and not seek legal advice, saying, quote, I'm trying to help you, you're going to make it more difficult. And as a lawyer, I can tell you that this looks really terrible. Telling someone not to have an attorney read over a document when you are an attorney purporting to be a neutral third party, I mean, some of these things just don't make sense. Now, this case was filed in the Superior Court of the New Jersey Chancery Division for Middlesex County. Chancery courts are courts of equity, not law. In New Jersey, this means that you go there when you want a judge to order someone to do something, not when you're seeking money damages or a regular jury trial. And right now, Bianco wants 4 things from the court. With respect to the agreement, she wants the court to declare the settlement agreement void because it was induced by fraud, and she's asking the court to enjoin the Bedminster Club from enforcing it. So in the short term, she wants to be able to speak publicly about what happened and know that she won't get sued for it. In reality, New Jersey law would bar any lawsuit to enforce the confidentiality provisions, but Bianco's complaint makes liberal use of the words Trump and fraud, while describing the settlement as basically insulting. And if her allegations and the $15,000 number are correct, then she's probably right. Before she can do anything about that, though, Bianco needs the Chancery Court to declare the entire contract void, at which point she'll be free to, well, that's an interesting question. Bianco's attorney is Nancy Erica Smith, an employment litigation super lawyer. In 2016, Smith won a $20 million settlement in public apology for her client Gretchen Carlson, who sued Fox News and Roger Ailes for sexual harassment. Smith has not said what Bianco plans to do if and when the Chancery Court voids the settlement agreement. But if the agreement drafted by Habba goes away, then Bianco would presumably be free to file the lawsuit Habba successfully headed off 3 years ago. And this time, Bianco won't be settling for, a paltry $15,000. Though she's asked the Chancery Court to let her keep the money since she was the party who was defrauded in this transaction. Bianco is also requesting that the court refer Habba and her law firm Habba, Medallo & Associates to New Jersey's Office of Attorney Ethics. In a supporting motion, Bianco says that, quote, Habba violated numerous ethics rules in encouraging her to sign an agreement favorable to Trump, which contains illegal provisions silencing her. These violations include communicating with a person she knew was represented by counsel while actually representing the interests of an adverse party, telling Bianco she was neutral when in reality Habba and her firm represented the interests of the club and Donald Trump, encouraging Bianco to fire her experienced employment lawyer, telling Bianco that retaining another lawyer could jeopardize a settlement, and talking Bianco into agreeing to illegal penalties for the illegal NDA. Now, asking a judge to refer an attorney for discipline is not a normal remedy that you sue for. But judges in New Jersey do appear to have the power to refer attorneys for discipline, and those referrals are treated with more deference than complaints made by members of the public. And that goes doubly if the court referral comes backed by a judicial finding that the attorney violated the rules or the law. So depending on what the court decides here, Habba could be in for a rough ride. Bianco's complaint spends 2 full pages listing the rules of professional conduct that Habba may have violated. And broadly speaking, she's alleged to have communicated with a represented party, violated conflict of interest laws, and made false statements to induce Bianco to sign an adverse settlement agreement. Those first 2 items on that list are not necessarily likely to interfere with her ability to practice law, but if the court finds that Habba made false statements, the penalty could be a lot more severe. New Jersey's attorney discipline system involves 6 levels of punishment. The first 3 are admonition, reprimand, and censure. Now, as far as I'm aware, Habba has no prior disciplinary record, except for being sanctioned in court a whole bunch of times. And so if she's found to have committed one of the lesser ethical improprieties, she'll probably get off with a nasty letter. But if the court and the Office of Attorney Ethics find that Habba made false statements or committed outright fraud, she could wind up with a more severe sanction, such as a suspension from the practice of law for at least a little while. And there's still the question of whether Habba was actually representing Trump or just trying to get in his good graces by making a problem go away. And the answer to that is we don't know at this point. But since Habba has put in writing and gotten her law partner, Mike Medallo, to notarize a document saying that she was definitely not acting as a lawyer here, she's probably not going to be able to claim attorney-client privilege for any conversation she had with regard to the settlement agreement, which is going to make for some very, very interesting litigation. Now, all this talk of a lawyer who allegedly took advantage of a 21-year-old server who didn't know any better has me wanting to donate to some charities to offset all of this terribleness. If only there were a way to know which charities were worthwhile and how to maximize my donation to do the most good possible. Well, there is. Today's legitimate sponsor, GiveWell, does just that. Now, there are over 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in the United States and millions more around the world. So how do you know which ones can make the biggest impact with your donation? Well, GiveWell was founded to help donors with that exact question. They pore over independent studies and charity data to help donors direct their funds to evidence-backed organizations that are saving and improving lives. I personally used GiveWell for years. I love supporting GiveWell because I want to make sure that my donations and charitable giving have the most impact possible. And the last thing I want to do is give to questionable charities that skim huge amounts off the top for administration, i.e. fancy parties, or spend their donations on dubious action. And GiveWell has now spent over 15 years researching charitable organizations and only directs funding to a few of the highest impact opportunities they've found. Over 100,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $1 billion with a B, and ensured their donations made maximum impact to save tens of thousands of lives and improve the lives of millions more. And here's the best part. GiveWell is completely free. GiveWell helps allocate your tax-deductible donation to the charity you choose without taking a cut. They publish all their research and recommendations on their site for free, no sign-up required. And when you donate through GiveWell, your donations are still tax-deductible in the US, and they will match your donations up to $100. Yes, this part is incredible. GiveWell is matching donations from first-time donors dollar for dollar up to $100. All you have to do is click on the link that's on screen right now or go to givewell.org and pick YouTube and enter Legal Eagle at checkout. Make sure they know you heard about GiveWell from Legal Eagle to get your donation matched. Again, to have up to $100 matched and make sure your donation and charitable giving has the maximum impact possible, just click on the link below and use the code Legal Eagle. After that, click on this box for more Legal Eagle, or I'll see you in court.